Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama. Thank you for joining me. This week, we're going back and revisiting a former podcast guest. I really am excited to have him back on the podcast. Kwadwo was my guest in, his episode aired in July of 2019. That was episode 259. If you haven't listened to it, I will link to it so you can have a listen. And when we actually had the conversation was in March of 2019. And that's when we're recording this. So it's been almost 2 years since Kwadwo and I have spoken. And in between that time, 2020 happened, but also other things. And so we're catching up with him and just to find out what's been going on. I really enjoy these episodes. So Kwadwo, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you so much for having me back. I enjoyed our first conversation and I'm excited to give an update.
I did too. And I often wonder what happens to people after. Some people I hear from after the podcast and, after some time has gone by. But, some people I always just wonder, I wonder how they're doing and, what's going on with them. And so episodes like this where we actually get to find out what has happened, I enjoy because I think, it's always nice to follow up on somebody's story. So what have you been up to in the last 2 years?
Well, it's hard to sum it up in a couple sentences, but I'll try my best. So since the last time we spoke, I've really focused a lot of energy on Crafted Glory, which is my business and also my Etsy shop. And at the time that we spoke, it was early on in my Etsy shop, and there are still some question marks in my mind about whether or not this could be a thing that would carry on and grow. But it became very apparent that it was. And a time that really stands out is August of, I guess 2020. Yeah, August of last year is when a significant milestone was hit. And that's when Etsy did a feature on my shop, which then prompted a lot of activity in my shop. So I started to get more traffic. And I believe there was another feature that happened also around that time, and sometime in the fall, that really prompted a whole lot of activity. So I know that's fast forwarding a lot between when we talked in 2019 and then, but that's really when the majority of the changes happened for me. So I've been really busy working on building this. When we last spoke, I was also working a day job, well, really a night job, because I worked a night shift and do my crafting during the day. I still work there, and it's a manufacturing plant. So I'm still trying to squeeze in as much of Crafted Glory as I can in each day, while also having to do that full-time job. So it's still challenging, but by God's grace, I'm making some progress, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations on getting featured. How did that happen? Did they reach out to you ahead of time? So did you know that it was coming, and did you have time to prepare for what was about to hit you, or were you surprised?
So no, and no. Well, surprised, yes.
Okay.
So they didn't reach out, so I had no idea it was coming. And so I had no time to prepare. So I remember specifically when it happened. I was at work at the time, and I noticed that my phone was buzzing. So I looked at it, and I got a couple notifications, people liking things. I put my phone down, it buzzed again. I picked it up, more likes, and this just carried on. Eventually, there were orders that were popping up, sometimes two at a time. Within a minute, two or three orders. It just kept going on and on and on. My phone was buzzing constantly, all shift long, and by the end of the day, there were just around 100 orders,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
all at once that I suddenly had to fulfill. And at the time in my shop, I had a great variety of items, from small things like jewelry, wooden jewelry,
Uh-huh.
to housewares like cutting boards and hexagon shelves, honeycomb shelves, and then
Yes.
also larger items like furniture. So I had orders all across the board.
Mm.
Um, but the problem was that at the time, the time frame for each item was not conducive to having so many at one time.
Mm.
So a lot of the due dates were within a short span of time.
Mm.
And so um, what happened was, and I'm sure we'll go into more detail about this later, but it created a whole lot of pressure for me, which at first I didn't really see how difficult it would be.
Mm.
But as time went on and orders became due, and I couldn't quite meet the demand, it became a very stressful situation. I was very grateful and excited for all the activity,
Yeah.
but not knowing ahead of time really created quite a challenge for me.
Yes, and that was why I asked, because I can only imagine. I mean, everybody is who is on Etsy or sells on Etsy or has subscribed, even if they don't sell, that's a huge mailing list. And to get their endorsement like that is, golden.
Hmm.
And so when I asked if you were prepared, the reason I asked is in my head, I think I would be so stressed out if I didn't have time to prepare. And for anyone who's wondering, what Kwadwo makes is a lot of furniture, and they're not, well, at least, well, let me just say, at the time we spoke, I know you were making furniture in addition to the jewelry. So what was the mix of the orders? Because I would imagine there's only so much you can keep on hand. And with the way it works, you probably end up having to make things before, not before, but as you get the orders. So what was the majority of the products people were ordering, and how were you able to eventually keep up with production?
Mm. Well, it was uh, pretty. There wasn't, as I can remember, uh, much more of one type of item than the other.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mix of jewelry, housewares, and furniture. Um, and I didn't have most of it pre-made. I make almost all of my items as they're ordered.
That's what I
It's just
thought.
hmm it's just the nature of what I make. Although
Mm-hmm.
with the jewelry at the time, I did have some components made,
Mm-hmm.
but by and large, most items were made as ordered. Um, so I didn't have the bandwidth at all to
Yeah.
get all of it done. Uh, so initially, I was just put my head down and was trying to um,
Oh.
just just get in there and get it done. But one by one, orders started to be late. So
Oh
I
no.
was late on orders, and eventually severely late on orders, and I had to reach out to people and let them know that I was delayed because I had a big influx at once.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pushing orders out and um, trying to keep customers satisfied as best as I could, but it became impossible um, just because I had limited time to get everything done. So what actually happened was some of the orders I ended up having to refund and cancel.
Oh
Uh,
no.
yeah, I had to do that. Some people actually canceled their orders,
Oh,
a handful, not a whole lot,
okay.
just because the wait was so long.
Wow.
Um, and I just remember I had my original ship date based on how quickly I could get things done at that
Right.
time,
Yeah.
but that wasn't modified based on the because I wasn't prepared for how much was going to come in, how many
Right.
orders was going to come in. So what ended up happening finally was I spoke to my family about it, and they realized how much pressure I was under because I was still working my my night job
Mm-hmm.
while doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I knew I was under a lot of stress, and eventually my dad volunteered to come up and help me. So
Oh.
he and my sister came up. They came up actually 3 times from Greensboro to Asheville, which is about a 3-hour drive. And they spent a week with me each time
Oh.
and, and helped me in the shop. So that I was very grateful for that. That it really helped. Um, my older brother came down from DC to help me.
What?
It was quite a big effort,
Oh
and
man.
eventually up to this point I had made everything on my own, but then I realized I needed to outsource
Yeah.
some of the work. So I found a fellow woodworker who I could get him to do some of the finishing work on a few items, and then I found became good friends with another woodworker who I didn't have to monitor him. I could just tell him what specs I needed, and
Mm-hmm.
he could also make components for me.
Okay.
So all of those things put together helped me to eventually get through. It was extremely painful and tiring, but that big spike happened. I believe it was in August or September, and it wasn't till January of this year that I finished that last order
You're
from that big.
kidding. So some people waited.
Some people waited. Yes.
Wow. Okay, I have so many questions. First of all, is everyone in your family a trained woodworker? Not trained, but everyone knows how to create the types of furniture and pieces that you make?
No, no one else
Okay, so
does.
what were they helping you with?
Well, I had to train them to do certain
Oh,
things.
okay. Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
I trained my father on how to do some sanding.
Okay.
So after making the items, I'd have him do the sanding, the finish sanding, and
Mm,
then I could apply the finish to the piece.
okay.
I also taught him how to use another tool that helped me. And then my sister helped with some of the finer work on the smaller items that
Mm-hmm.
I was making. I would make these letter blocks that people really like to buy for nurseries, their child,
Yeah.
and actually those were one of the most time consuming things to make because the sanding is very detailed on them. So, which brings up an interesting thing is that one might think that the larger furniture pieces would take more time
Yeah.
or it would be more involved, but it's actually the smaller items that um, get in the way, so to speak. Because if I have 20 people that order earrings and maybe some of them order a few pairs,
Mm-hmm.
I have to set up on each of those and make all the components and do all the detailed work. It's just a lot of setup. Whereas with the one furniture piece, um, it's just a different way of working.
Right.
And so I spoke with my older brother, who suggested that I just move away from some of the smaller items. And at first I was thinking that it wasn't a good idea, but I eventually I got on board, and I think he was completely right. So right now, if you look at my shop, it's just furniture,
Yeah.
and then a handful of housewares. So
And
things flow a lot better now.
right, I was going to ask about that because I noticed that you dropped the furniture line, and and um I would assume that the profit margin on those was lower than with the furniture.
Oh, with the jewelry, yes. Well, percentage-wise, it's higher because the material cost is almost negligible with
Okay.
the jewelry and some of the other smaller items.
Hmm.
But just dollar-wise, with the furniture, it's much higher.
Yeah.
Just because I can charge much more, and I should charge much more because it is time-consuming
Yeah.
in its own right, and also it's a piece, the furniture piece that someone buys, something that they will keep for a long time, and it's just something that has a lot of value.
Yes. Do you miss making the jewelry?
I don't.
Oh, okay, well, good. Good decision then.
Yes.
Now, when your brother came, what did you train him to do?
I also trained him to do the sanding,
Okay.
the power electric sanding.
Okay.
Yeah, so he helped a great deal.
So, at any point when you were really overwhelmed because of the exposure, did it ever cross your mind that maybe it was time to leave your full-time job and just throw yourself into this? Or did you know that this was for a period and it was going to just even out eventually?
I thought about that very often, and
Mhm.
I had the conversation with my father and my older brother, and I was convinced that I would be leaving very soon. I actually told myself that by the end of 2020, I would leave my full time job and
Mm.
focus on this, because I realized that I was at a point where I was at the limits of my bandwidth, so
Yeah.
I either needed to focus all my energy on Crafted Glory or on a full time job, because both were suffering because my
Yeah.
time was so split.
Yeah.
Um, but my father wasn't so keen on that. Mainly his concern was with the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Through my day job, I have the health insurance and all those
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
and I'm single, so I don't have if I were married, then maybe my wife would be working somewhere that had benefits, and we could both
Right.
be on that together.
Right.
So it'd just be me. And going through the numbers, I realized that I actually wasn't quite there yet either to be able to support myself with just Craft
Okay.
Glory. Although the sales numbers were high,
Mm-hmm.
um, I my business just wasn't at the place yet to support me full time.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you thought it through so logically, if you will, because I know there might have been, and like you said, there was, at least for a time, that temptation to walk away and say, okay, this is the time to make the leap, to
Mhm.
make that jump. But there are so many other factors that go into deciding whether or not it's the right move, and I think, you know kudos to your dad. A lot of people, especially in the entrepreneur community, don't really think about what you get from a job
Mhm.
outside of just the paycheck. The health benefits are huge for some,
Yes.
and for people who really need that, maybe, for people who maybe have conditions where it would be so expensive to pay out of pocket, because healthcare in the US is ridiculously expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things that one has to think about. But for anyone who might be listening who is self-employed, I know that there are resources for entrepreneurs and the self-employed, and one that comes to mind, which I heard about a year ago, is called the Freelancers Union, and it's it's an organization that was started by a lawyer in New York, specifically to help entrepreneurs get access to affordable health care. And it's not available in every state, and it's slowly rolling out in across the US. But if anyone is listening and you're employed full time and you don't have insurance, or you don't like what you have, check out the Freelancers Union and see if it's available in your state, because they bargain for affordable rates like an employer would with the insurance companies. But that's an aside. Okay. So you get this onslaught. You don't fully, come out of that whole, fog, if you will, until January of this year. Then what? How do things look in January? Was it a steep decline, or did things go back to pre-feature days?
It has been steady, actually. So since that time, well, just to give some numbers, and when people hear these numbers, they'll think, "Oh, wow, he's doing well," but it's not the whole picture, just the sales number. But so that 1 month where I had the big spike, it was about $11,000 in sales in that 1 month.
Oh wow, that's good.
Mm-hmm. And then each month after that, it was between 5 and 10,000 in sales, and then so it's been pretty steady after that month, fluctuating just a little bit up and down.
Yeah.
But last year, after that big spike, my profit was not huge, because for a number of reasons, material cost and not really being prepared to optimize my costs for that spike. And also I had to do a lot of gymnastics to try and please the customers. So I had to rush orders, so spending a lot on shipping, expedited shipping. That was a huge chunk of my expenses.
And that was out of pocket, because were you offering free shipping?
I think some of my items, or most of my items, were free shipping. Okay. Yes. So that free shipping wasn't set up for expedited shipping. But because I was late on orders, I had to expedite. I had to refund people money as a courtesy for their wait.
Oh.
So it was very expensive trying to keep everyone happy, because I dreaded having someone write a horrible review based on their experience. So I really wanted to do everything to at least maintain that image, so that moving forward, my shop would still survive.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So would you say that, and I'm glad you differentiated between gross sales and profit.
Mm-hmm.
Were you still able to make a profit even though certain things were eating into your cost? I mean, into your profits, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Into our profits. Not much of one at all. Although I will say that I was able to invest a lot into some critical machinery. That it was a game changer for my shop, having these pieces of equipment. So in a sense, yes, I was able to make a significant amount that allowed me to move my shop forward.
Yeah.
With those purchases, but in terms of money in the bank, not much.
Okay.
Mhm.
But more importantly, what came out of what you did earn has gone back into the business in a way that can help you scale, and maybe um if you do get like another feature or what have you, you're more prepared to take it on, would you say?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's that's the for lack of a better term, the dark side of being
Hmm.
featured. I
Yeah.
mean, there really is no dark side. It's always nice to be featured
Yes.
and recognized, but it has its difficulties, and especially when you don't know it's coming. And I've heard both. I've talked to oh, there was someone I had on the podcast who was featured, but they contacted her beforehand
Hmm.
and gave her a heads up that she was going to be featured. And so I just assumed that they do that for everyone that they feature, or at least, maybe, obviously not everyone, but maybe most people, or maybe they drop the ball in your case
Could
because
it could,
they have to know that that kind of exposure has
yes.
ramifications.
It could have been an outlier for that one case,
Mhm.
because they reached out a couple times after for some separate features. So
Oh,
yeah, my shop got a couple more features after that, and they did the courtesy of reaching out. So I was grateful
okay.
for that.
Okay, see, I thought so. All right. So when the subsequent features came along, how did you prepare?
Okay, so well, by that time I had already adjusted my lead times
Okay.
after because of that first feature. So I was already more prepared.
Okay.
Um, that's the main thing, the lead times. And I've been working with those additionally since then, and just trying to optimize them. And I think I'm at a comfortable place now with the lead times. I think I've noticed that um, I think that people don't order as frequently as they would if my lead times were shorter. But I
Mm,
do still get steady orders.
yeah. And it's a pace and at a rate that you're comfortable with and is not stressing you out, and
Right.
you're not having to call the family in, call in the cavalry to
Yeah.
drop everything and get down here.
Yes. I have had some customers reach out and ask if they can have the item sooner,
Mm,
and I just have to say no.
yeah.
Um, that time is the time that it takes to make it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
some people, they just have to be patient.
Yeah. So, oh, it just slipped my mind. I was going to ask you something. Oh, yeah, I remember now. What is it that you think is attracting the multiple features? And I ask this for other people who might be listening, or one person who might be listening who wants to get featured and wants to have their products on display. What do you think it is that is catching the eye of the, I don't even know who, the editors, I guess?
Yeah, editors.
Yes.
Um, hmm. Well, I think that one thing is I've been very intentional about trying to convey the message of what my shop is all about
Mm,
on my page. So in my description about my shop, I talk about it and try and be put a heartfelt message in there.
mm,
So perhaps that's one thing. Um, and images, really having good pictures is important to me.
yeah.
So I think that's appealing as well, because Etsy wants to feature shops that look good,
Mm,
because when Etsy features a shop, it reflects on them as well. So
right.
needs to look like a legitimate business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I foresee that one day you might be in one of those Etsy commercials.
Oh.
Your furniture.
That would be neat.
That would be neat. And I like that they put the shop names in the commercials. Have you seen those actually?
I've seen, I think I saw the first one.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was kind of neat that they actually put the name of the shop, because that's one of the downsides to selling on a marketplace is that, like Etsy, is that you can have your own brand, but then you kind of get drowned by the overarching Etsy brand.
Yes.
And so when they
Yes.
advertise, they're advertising Etsy and not necessarily Crafted Glory Design. But in the commercials, I like that even though you see Etsy, displayed prominently, you also see the names of the shops. And so somebody watching can, see something that they like and know, oh, it's at Etsy.com, but I'm looking for Crafted Glory Design and know exactly where to go. So I like that they did that.
Yes, yes. And I've noticed in communicating with customers, some people recognize that these are individual shops and makers on Etsy that they're purchasing from, whereas others, they're just purchasing from a website.
Right.
And it reflects in the interaction with them.
Yeah.
So those who are very understanding with my timeline challenges recognize that it's a maker behind the screen, behind their purchase.
Yeah.
But some of the others is just like, where's my item? It should be here by now.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned photography. When we talked last time, I know you were using a professional photographer. Are you still using a professional to take all your pictures of your items, or no?
Oh, well, actually, it's always been me taking the pictures, and but photography has been it is one of my professions, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So I in college I took a couple of photography and filmmaking classes, and so that's a skill set that I've been nurturing.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I take all my pictures and I have a little setup in my house.
Those are great. So those are all you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were a professional, but then you are a professional, so that makes sense. Yeah, very nice. Okay. The other thing I was going to ask was the last time we talked, and you were also running an Airbnb.
Yes.
How, I would assume that might have been impacted by the pandemic in 2020, or how is it going? Is it still doing well? Did you have to back off that because of what was going on last year?
Well, interestingly, it was not as heavily impacted as I thought it would be. Yeah, the first month when all the mandates in various states were being rolled out, I had to stop for a period of time because they're saying no short-term rentals. It was for a few weeks. But then once that was lifted, I was still getting people booking reservations, and we just had to follow the various protocols.
Okay.
So it's been pretty steady.
Wow.
And the nice thing is that in one of the spaces, I put furniture that I built, and people will comment on the furniture, and I've had people make purchases also based on what they saw in the space.
Nice.
So that's been a blessing.
That's, yeah, your own advertising, your own gallery, and all rolled into one. That really is a blessing.
Yes.
Another thing that we talked about last time, you were doing some blogging and using Pinterest to drive traffic to your Etsy
Mhm.
shop. Are you still doing those things?
No, I haven't used Pinterest in a long time, and when I was using it, I wasn't noticing any traffic coming
Oh.
from it. Probably because I'm not very adept with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I did focus more energy on my Instagram
Mm.
account, my Instagram page, and building that out. So I feel like I have a pretty strong Instagram now, and I do get nice traffic there, um, and pretty good engagement with people there.
Okay.
And then the blog, I haven't blogged as well, but that's something I would like to continue.
Yeah. Now for Instagram, do you have a particular strategy? Do you do more in process videos like in stories, or do you primarily post finished products in the just your regular feed?
Hmm. I use stories a lot, and I have done some in process stories. Um, so it seems people like to engage with that. And
Yeah.
then what I've been doing also is, as I finish items, I will post it on my stories and mention where it's going. So um, it seems that when people see that, they see that, oh, Crafted Glory is a nationwide, or ships nationwide, and
Right.
it helps to build some credibility with what I'm doing. And it's just interesting to see the different states that items are going to.
Yeah. Do you ship internationally?
I do. I haven't shipped any furniture internationally,
Okay.
but I've shipped jewelry internationally to Ireland. Germany and Ireland are the only two
Nice.
places. Hmm.
Have you been able to, or have you tried or thought of trying um Instagram, selling directly through Instagram, either maybe using their shoppable links or even just taking commissioned projects through Instagram?
I haven't looked into that really, but it would be something I'd potentially be interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz I see um s- uh different types of makers will will do that on Instagram. Like they when they display what they make or they share what they make or their process, people might ask, well, can you make this for me but do this, and
Mhm.
it turns into a commission project essentially.
Uh, I did get one request from somebody, but they didn't follow through with it, and
Ah.
that was on Instagram.
uh the non-follow throughers.
Yeah.
uh so now that you've trimmed down your product line, um creatively, are you coming up with new ideas? Do you find that your creativity is enhanced because you get to focus on just a certain product line, and so you can get more creative with those products, or no?
Yes, yes, definitely. And that was a hidden benefit that
Mm,
I couldn't see until my brother mentioned that. So I
yeah.
was so busy making the jewelry and making all these small things, and it took up so much time.
Yeah.
But now I'm able to make or spend more effort and time designing furniture. And actually, one of the bigger drivers for my new furniture designs are my customers, because I'll get someone who will see an item and then will ask for a some changes to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then that becomes a new design, because typically they won't give me every spec that they want. They'll just say, well, I want it to generally be like this, but then I
Mm-hmm.
get the creative freedom to then turn their desire into my own creation.
Yeah.
So that's been the driver for new designs. And I actually have a new design that I'm finishing up that's going to ship to Boston next week. And then somebody requested a new coffee table design. So that gets me really excited, getting to come up with these new designs for clients.
Yeah, I would imagine. And then when you do get a request for a new design, do you make a prototype and keep that in your inventory, or do you photograph what you made for that particular customer and then list it and then just remake it when another order comes in?
The latter, yes.
Okay.
I'll make it and then photograph it, and then make note of any specs that I need in order to remake it.
Mm-hmm. As far as maintaining inventory, do you have a system in place or a process for knowing what pieces to keep on hand, or what pieces of raw materials rather to keep on hand, so that when you get orders, you're not having to wait for materials to come in. You can start doing something.
Oh, that's a good question. With the furniture, yes and no. I've been able to see that my coffee tables are frequent purchases, so it's a good idea to stock up on the size of lumber that I typically use for coffee tables.
Yeah.
And that's no problem. But generally, there are certain sizes of lumber that are used across most types of pieces that I have in my shop, so I can safely stock up on those without and know that they'll be used. But I try and keep my inventory pretty slim, because stocking up on a lot of lumber can be expensive,
Right.
and I need to keep some liquidity
Right.
there. But in general, I will get the majority of the lumber as orders come through. And since my lead times are far out, then I have time to get the wood. So actually, while we're speaking, an order came through for a coffee table.
Oh.
And so I will,
Yay.
the lead time on that is actually 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
Whoa.
So I have a lot of time to get my inventory together for that.
Yes. And there has to be something calming about knowing that the person who bought this knows it's going to be a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not stressing.
Exactly.
Before you had the feature, typically what was your lead time?
Oh, my lead times made no sense. And I'm looking back, I'm not sure why. I guess I just had this feeling that I need to make it as short as possible in order to keep the customers happy.
Right.
So I think my coffee table lead time was, I think it was something like 2 to 4 weeks. And that's not reasonable, especially when you have 4 or 5 or 6 orders for coffee tables that happen over several days.
Yeah.
Then they start to overlap.
Yeah.
And then some of my jewelry was a couple days, some of the other items 2 to 5 days. So not reasonable at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now it won't happen anymore, but did people ever order like earrings and a table?
Oh yeah. Yes, some people would mix it up. Mm-hmm. Earrings and a table. Earrings and a couple of honeycomb shelves, or cutting board and earrings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so then would you try to ship everything together, or would you do Amazon style and say, hey, they might come in different boxes, just deal with it?
Oh, no, I try and ship them all together.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'd find, I did try and do it separately on some, and I was starting to get things mixed up and
Mm.
forget items. So it was better to, because when they order it all together, I have to mark it shipped all at once.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's better to just have it all done at once.
that's right. I didn't even think about that. Yes, you do have to, you can't separate out items.
Hmm.
Now, have you seen the feature on Etsy where it tells you how many people have a product in their cart?
Yes.
Do you do anything with that information? Like, have you set up any campaigns to automatically send them perhaps a discount coupon to help urge them to follow through on the purchase, or do you just let it be?
Yes, I've tried that out. I think I've gotten one or two people who've used that coupon, but it hasn't driven a whole lot of traffic that I know of.
Okay. All right.
Hmm.
I was just curious about that because, um, yeah, I'm curious about what the conversion rate is, because I know sometimes people will either favorite something or put it in their cart just because they want to remember, or they want to go to another store and show a picture and say, this is what, do you have this? You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They use it as a place marker or a bookmark,
Hmm.
and they
Hmm.
don't really have any true buying intent. And so, yeah, knowing what that conversion rate kind of helps to figure out, if people are just bookmarking or if they really are planning to buy.
Right.
Kwadwo, what do you hope for Crafted Glory Design in the year coming? And let's just think 1 year ahead, because after 2020, I'm afraid to think 5 years into the future.
um, well, well, for what I've seen in this past year, everything that's happened, it has been um, a lesson for me on how, in the midst of great hardship and difficulty, um, uh, God has a plan through it all, and that He is and He's carrying me forward. And when I shouldn't look around me at circumstances to determine 100% how to move forward. That has been real clear
Mm,
to me. So moving forward, I'm definitely going to trust that He knows what's best. And
mhm,
my goal is for Crafted Glory to be a vehicle for helping people, disadvantaged individuals in one way or the other.
mm,
So um, I really would like to impact young people, and specifically young people in design and technology, because looking back at how things started for me as a kid, I loved playing with Legos, and my parents supported that. So I would spend hours and hours building things with Legos, and also items that I'd find around the house, and tinker and try and invent things.
mm,
And that nurturing of that creative spirit by my parents I see the direct impact on what I'm doing today. So I'd like to do the same thing for other young people, and foster that creativity. And so that's one of my intentions in this year going forward. I actually have plans to start a scholarship, and just something small, because I realized that $100 for me isn't such a big deal. I mean, it's $100 is a lot of money, but it's
mm,
for a little kid who has a dream of making something or doing something. $100 could be a um, could be the difference between that dream becoming reality and it not.
yeah.
So if I could create a scholarship for $100, or maybe a couple of those, to a kid, um, to help their dream come true, that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
And so I it's in my mind, it's in my heart to just get started. Even though I don't have the means to do something big,
Mm-hmm.
I can do something small, and then eventually it'll become something bigger. So that's what I like to do in this coming year.
Well, I hope you achieve and accomplish everything that you've set your mind on doing, because I just like the intentions that you have going forward, and looking at just how you want your business to grow, but also how you want to impact the lives of others,
Hmm.
not just in their homes, but then even outside the homes, and outside of people who are directly, paying you for a product, but other people. And so I wish you all the success, in your ventures going forward. And again, I would love to catch up and see what happens next.
Yes, yes, and hopefully it can be sooner than another 2 years.
Another 2 years. Yes, I know.
Yes.
Yes, as long as we don't have another 2020, we,
Oh yeah.
let's talk again in a year.
Yeah. And one other thing I wanted to share with people to
Yes.
encourage them, discouragement is something that I think a lot of creatives deal with.
Mm.
And it's something that I really, really, really struggled with in the last year, especially going through this extremely stressful time. There are times when I just thought, I'm going to just close up shop. This
Mm.
is too much for me. But then the next day, I'd wake up, it's a new morning, a new day, and I'd feel encouraged. And I'd go into the shop, I'd smell the wood,
Oh.
and remember that I love this and I enjoy doing this, and I would feel the strength to carry on. So um, just encourage people that discouragement may set in, but don't let that moment of discouragement be that defining moment for
Yeah.
what you do moving forward. It's okay to step away, to go to sleep, to do something else, take a break, maybe a couple days,
Yeah.
come back to it, and just remember why you really started doing this, and put one foot in front of the other, and eventually you'll get through that hard time. You
Yeah.
look back and be grateful for all that you learned.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that's so, um, pertinent now, especially again coming out of what was a difficult year for many people.
Hmm.
And a lot of people lost things, businesses and whatnot. And just having the encouragement to know that, okay, if all I have to do is put one foot in front of the other, and eventually I'll get out of this. It might take a while, but eventually it will happen, is such an encouragement. And coming from you, who, I can only imagine the stress that you were feeling when there was all that pressure to fulfill orders.
Hmm.
And almost not, like, I would feel like there were some mornings I would not even want to wake up and face what I had to do that day. I can't even imagine.
Yes.
And having come through, I think it means even more knowing, hearing from you that, you can get through it.
Yes. You build resilience, and you become less phased by those moments. And just one anecdote, I remember there's one order that I had to make for somebody. It was extremely delayed. And then finally I made it. I got it done. I packed it up. I shipped it on a snowy, icy day
Oh,
to Washington, D.C. Then I got a message a couple days later with a picture. The shipping company had broken it.
no.
And it was a complicated furniture piece.
Oh,
But
no.
it didn't really faze me. I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to remake it for them, and it's going to be okay. So
Yeah.
after going through all those struggles, one disappointment isn't as debilitating as it used to
Mm,
be.
yeah. Oh, good stuff to know. Now I'm curious. Do you insure your shipments?
Yes, I insure them.
Okay, good.
Yes, I insure them, and that's critical. Please insure them. If you make something that's very valuable, it's important to insure it.
Yes. Do you use just regular insurance? Well, I assume you don't ship by USPS.
I Some items are used. Well, actually, now at this point, it's all FedEx.
Okay.
But there's a local place in town that I work with, and he helps me to set up the insurance real easily.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Yes, people, insurance. If
Mm.
if you're sending a high value item, it's so worth it to pay the extra money to insure it.
Oh, yes.
For your
Absolutely.
peace of mind, theirs.
Oh, yes.
Oh, there was something else I was going to ask, and now it slipped my. Oh, I remember now. If you had to do it all over again, like if you knew that you were going to, have the opportunity to get the type of exposure and everything that comes along with being featured by Etsy, would you do it again? Would you relive all that?
I would relive it if my shop were more streamlined. I didn't have the small items. My dates were correct.
Yeah.
My completion dates. Oh yeah. And I would early on utilize the help of others to build components for me. So yeah, if I had the knowledge I have now, I would have done it again.
Okay. So now you have the knowledge. You're ready.
I do.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good. All right. So if Etsy, you're listening, he's ready for you.
Yes.
Kwadwo,
thank you, Etsy.
Yes. Thank you, Etsy. What's the best way folks can connect with you if they want to stay in touch or reach out and just check in with you?
I'd say at Instagram would be best.
Okay.
I'm at Crafted Glory.
Okay.
So I'd love to connect with people there.
All right. So I will link to Kwadwo's Instagram account at Crafted Glory. So if you're on Instagram, you can connect with him there. I will also link to his Etsy shop. Again, that's Crafted Glory Design. And I will also link to his Etsy shop. So you can check out what he's doing. And he's ready for you.
Yep.
Kwadwo, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. Thank you for catching me up on all what you're doing and the updates. It's like I said, I just really enjoy hearing what people are up to and how things have changed, if things have changed. And man, you've had an eventful 2 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And thank you so much, Joma, and thank you for what you do for the community.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back with another episode next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.